Hello, everyone, and we are live. Thank God it's nearly Friday again. And tonight we are joined by Michael Kopf. We've had him before on Friday Frighteners, and the man has agreed to come back, thankfully. Um, so, how is everyone while I'm sharing this out?
I'm happy to be back, and I looking forward to this. I don't often get to do shows about this, so I'm excited, and I'm doing well. How about you?
I am doing good. How are you, Joe? How's your week been?
It's going good this week. Oh, everything's falling into place here.
That's good. That's what we always like. A happy household. My cat just seems to be climbing everywhere. She's honestly something else. So we have three in the chat. Can someone say hello just so that I know that you can hear us? Because StreamYard has been driving me berserk recently. And as everybody knows, last night me and Nick did a show, and StreamYard was just playing up to something chronic. Nick's connection. Nick couldn't hear what I said, I couldn't hear what Nick said, and then his presentation just went a wee bit the.
I think it's
So,
Nick's connection. I was watching you guys last night for a bit, and I swear Nick's got issues down there in Illinois.
oh, I feel sorry for him because he does try and he
It's
feels so bad.
I swear one of these days he's gonna have me come out and fix his whole house and their network connection.
I think he really actually does need it.
Eric,
Um,
comment.
well, hey, Eric, how you doing? Good luck. Eric's not keeping too well just now. So good
Oh,
luck, Eric.
Hope you
Good
feel
luck. Um, so tonight we're talking about conspiracies and serial killers.
oh,
So
it's just my favorite topic.
two, two, two of the most interesting subjects ever: conspiracy theories, and you have serial killers. This is why I love these type of shows. So,
Ooh.
I know, Michael, you wanted to. Hi, Noreen. You wanted to speak a wee bit about Jack the Ripper.
Oh well, I was just saying because there's so many theories around him that he was one of the first serial killers too, and in print, I should say. So I just thought, hey, we could do two birds in one stone.
Yep. And do you know what? It's such an interesting topic, Jack the Ripper. I so desperately, really desperately want a gentleman on my show. And I keep trying to build the courage to message him. And his name's Russell Edward Stevens, I think his name is. And he's really fascinated with Jack the Ripper. And he's wrote, I think, a good couple of books about Jack the Ripper. But there's so much to that it's mind blowing, and I don't. It's going to be one of those ones. It doesn't matter how much technology we have in the 21st century. It's only going to get bigger and better, and even then, I don't. It's going to be one of those cases that will never ever will be solved.
Oh, I don't think it'll be ever solved.
I don't know. I think we're getting close to technology that will allow us to witness events from the past, and so I'm thinking we'll be able to solve it, but whether or not people will
Bel-
accept
Except,
what
yeah,
the
there you go.
solution is.
Right. That's the thing because as the new technology comes out, remember back when DNA was DNA analysis was a brand new thing. It took a while before it was even submissible in courts,
Yep.
And
as
even
and still people
still not fully.
right, and still people are really skeptical of that technology, because it's not proven 100, but still it's proven enough to get some innocent people out of prison over the years.
Well, look at that gentleman recently in America who it was obviously sentenced to life, and he just had his sentence quashed, and you can just see how overwhelmed he was at the fact that he's been fighting, I think, for about 16 years. I think he was fighting his case, and it was innocent. And then we've always had these discussions about the death penalty. Now, I am a believer in the death penalty, but then I think there's always that downside of you see so many people who have been put in prison. It doesn't matter where in the world. It could be the United States, it could be the United Kingdom, it could be anywhere in the world who have been put to jail that are innocent.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that you have with the death penalty is that you could be putting somebody on death penalty who is completely innocent and you're killing them. So
Yeah,
you have that downside there.
Oh
that's
yeah.
it. And you don't know how many has already happened to that way over the years before they started, some states started abolishing the death penalty.
Yeah,
The justice system, and I can say this because I studied law for a while in my younger years. It's not perfect.
yeah,
It works, but it's not perfect because you got to realize there is really, truly a good percentage of people that are truly innocent of the crime they were charged with.
yeah. Oh
You
God,
know,
yeah.
and they're sitting there and they get out when DNA or whatever proves them innocent, but yet you can't give them those years back.
Oh
No.
God, yeah. There's one in Scotland that's quite well known, and Nicola, who's in the chat. Hi, Daryl. So I'll just quickly I'll say hi because the comments are building. Thank you very much, Nicola. You're a darling. Hey, Lynn. Nori says I watched him discussing this subject. He was fascinating to listen to. I can imagine. Hey, William. Eric says ask Jenny to get a hold of him. I think she had him on her show. She has a good couple of times. I'll need to say to her. Hey Eli, welcome to the show. Nori says, I'm sure he did an interview with Paranormal Hauntings about Jack the Ripper. Irene saying hello to us all. Hey Daryl, how you doing? So there is a case in Scotland, and it was many years ago, and it was in Glasgow, and it was they call it the Ice Cream Wars, and basically a family got burned out their house and there was a toddler that was killed. Now, two men were sentenced for this and they fought many, many, many years, and it turned out that they were innocent. And it's like, as one of them said, Joe Steele said, you can never ever get that time back. Never. You lose so many time when you're getting sentences like that. You can't make up for that time, and you always thinking. I always have this conversation as well, is about people who've been in jail for so long. I mean, I know this is really no comparison because it's a film, obviously, but when you look at the film Shawshank Redemption, when Brooks has been in jail for practically nearly all his life, he gets out as an old man. He can't adapt to life. He can't.
There's a word for that.
I know, and I can't even think it.
I'll tell you what it is. They become institutionalized. All right.
That's the word.
So that when they're inside those walls, they feel safer. It's
Yep.
they those prisoners. And see, the reason I know this is I've had some bad family members that have been in and out of prison since they were like 14 years old. They get out and they'll tell me, "Oh, I can't handle it out here. I got to do something to get back in." So they do the stupidest, dumbest crime ever and make it so that it's a felony or something. So they're definitely going back. But they make it so that they get caught, because they want to get caught. They go like to a bar where they are known. Everybody knows this person's name. They go into the bar and they rob it.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, that's the dumbest, SOB I know. And in his mind, that was the smartest thing he ever done, because he's not going to hurt nobody, but he's going to rob the place and do it in such a way that he's going to be going back.
Oh God, yeah.
And Lo and Joe, there's another aspect of it too that nobody thinks about is even if you're innocent when you're released, you're forever marked as being in
Oh
prison.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
And
God, yeah. Well, that's what Noreen's actually just said, and also Mud Sticks. They are never free.
That crime you're accused of is going to follow you around because there's going to be those people that believe you did it.
I mean, look at the worst. We'll go the most heinous crime of them all, right? If somebody gets strong viewers discretion advised, if somebody gets raped, right, and an innocent man is accused of doing that crime, turns out that he's innocent. That sticks. You can't get rid of that.
Well, no,
you can't.
And chances are he'll never have a relationship in the future either.
Well, here I'm gonna tell you something. Here's what happened. A person. Well, we'll just tell you the truth. I was accused of sexually assaulting my daughter, my oldest daughter. Okay.
Oh my God, Joe.
Now, I'm gonna tell you something right now. My oldest daughter is a daddy's girl. I mean, she'll call me at 3:00 in the morning when she got pulled over for drinking and driving. Okay. But her mother did this to me in order to get me out of the way because she wanted to go with this guy and help him rob a bank. See, I can talk about this because the whole thing is over with. The guy ended up in jail and I'm no longer under the federal witness. But the thing is, she coached my daughter. It got to the point where it went to Child Protection Services. They came out, interviewed everybody, and so on and so forth, to determine my daughter was coached, right? So here it goes to court. I get my day in court to defend myself. Here I am sitting there in the courtroom and she never shows up.
Yep.
So it gets thrown out of the court, but yet I still have this over my shoulder. And I'm going to tell you, it took until, and this happened when my daughter was very little. Her brother, her younger brother was still in a stroller and diapers because, he was barely a year old. Okay. So you're talking, 30 plus years ago. Okay.
Yep.
I could not hug my kids or anything like that or show affection to my kids all those years until I got together with my wife and told her why, and she helped me through it all. But that is a bad thing that you can do to a person when they're innocent.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it's bad enough that when I was a kid, I was abused.
Oh my God,
Okay.
Joe, I'm so sorry.
That's the last thing I would have ever done to my kids. I never hit them. I punished them. I yelled at the top of my lungs and probably scared the living shit out of them, but it was mostly for their own good and safety.
Yeah,
But I've never hit my kids, and I would never abuse my kids. Hell, I don't even hit or abuse my dog. You know, I'm not that type
wow.
of person. I've never hit a woman in my life. But to have that follow you around and never be able to have your day, truly have your day in court, it doesn't help. It makes it worse.
It's a really horrible situation, and especially the world that we live in nowadays. Um, but it's I totally admire you, Joe, for actually opening up and sharing that with us. That couldn't have been easy, but thank you for
So
sharing.
it wasn't easy because it's not something I like to talk about. But at the same time, when you look at it, my kids are the reason I'm sitting here, that I'm alive.
Yeah,
Because when I got hit with that leukemia in 95, I swore up and down those kids were not going to grow up without my father, without their father, you know.
mm,
So, and I was going to live, and I did it. I actually accomplished that. I said back then I was going to live to walk one of my daughters down the aisle, and I walked my oldest daughter down the aisle.
oh, that's
What
nice.
was that, 2, 3 years ago? I think she's been married now.
Oh, Norris says a lot of people that have been incarcerated can't cope in the outside world and will do anything to go back to the safety of the environment they're familiar with.
Yep.
Irene put, I agree with you. We have a very good system here in, excuse me, in Japan where the police are told by the top to go back and make sure they did the crime and no holes in the case. But if the person didn't the crime, they would be released. But we have the death penalty here by hanging, and if you don't apologise for your crimes, then you will be on death row. But the law doesn't protect children enough. Hey Rita, hey, oh, Linda says hi, Michael. Hey Linda, hey Rita. But yeah, going back to Jack the Ripper, I think the thing that I like the theories. There's been many theories, as you know, with Jack the Ripper. Um, at one point, I think people were thinking that it was a woman. At another point, it was a surgeon. You know, they've had so many theories
Do you know
as
why they
going
thought it
through.
was a woman though?
No, that's what I've been interested in.
So surgeon aides were nurses, which would be women. So there were women strong enough to lift a woman or lift a man. So the thought of women being these weak, feeble people walking around, no offense, Lo, this was back then.
Don't
But
worry, I'm not going to shout sexist.
but they that's why they were dismissed, is they were
Yeah.
viewed as being weak and feeble, so there's no way they could commit the crime. But then they found out
Oh,
there
I've
was
just kicked Nick out.
there was a female surgeon aide that was
Yeah,
around this doctor that they thought was Jack the Ripper, and they looked and they said she would fit the description, the build,
yeah.
the and from the dark you could think it was her. She was him.
Um,
And so they were like, she would be, as a surgeon's aide, she would know
yeah.
how to surgically do the crimes. And
Oh,
so that's where, when I was following that, I was like, whoa, that puts a whole new twist to
Yeah,
this.
it
And
does,
yes,
doesn't it?
could be. And that's why it was never caught.
And that's why it's never been solved.
exactly. Nick, What have you done to your hair? Have you been in that shower?
Yeah, I was, and I combed it afterwards.
Yeah, you're following my kind of hairdo tonight. See, I couldn't find my straighteners, so I'm just trying to like wear my hair.
Slap it ahead.
Used to have met before, haven't you? Yeah, Friday Frighteners. I wasn't too sure because I was like,
Yeah,
have they
I
two
was gonna,
met? I was like, they have Friday Frighteners.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Irene,
nice to see you again, Michael.
Nice to see you too, Nick.
um, Irene says, I could drag my husband and he knows that I have the power. Oh, listen, Irene, if I was your husband, I would be bringing a broke pay home to you because I'd be fearing you would hit me with a rolling pin. But yeah, there's so many cases out there that's so fascinating. There's been so many serial killers, and I've been doing a lot of reading because what I tend to do is you see so many shows, right, and they're so focused on things like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, with John Wayne Gacy, you know,
I
there's
was
so
talking
many.
about that today with Dale Kismerick,
Oh,
John Wayne Gacy.
Yep.
he was another character that was you wouldn't believe, was standing shaking hands with the first lady.
Yeah,
And I only
what's
am just, and I'm
interesting
only
is
about half hour from his house, from John Wayne Gacy's house.
That guy had must have had multiple personality disorder or something because he was living a dual life for sure.
That's what I can't understand, and that I think really does fascinate me about serial killers is I just don't know how. And one of the books that I read, and if anybody reads any books, I would highly recommend a book series by Jason Neal, and he looks at serial killers that I've not even heard of. And there was this one story that I covered. Oh, it must have been a good while back. It must have been Nick. We've been 2 years this year, so it must have been no long when I started the
Right.
show, and I covered one, and it was a guy called Michael Twitchwell,
I
and
think so.
he
Yeah.
he was basically inspired by Dexter. Now I've never ever watched Dexter.
My mom
You
has
okay,
that, on the
Michael?
other hand.
Oh, I'm good.
It's just because you just vanished. I was like, he just disappeared. I've never watched Dexter, so I don't know what it's about. But anyway, he was inspired by Dexter, and basically what he did was he basically went on dating sites and acted as a lady, and he would lure men, and he tortured them. This guy fascinated me because when I read his account, obviously, because Jason did a lot of research when he was writing these books, and there's this account from this guy, and the honesty that he had about why he did it, why the excitement that he had at the thought of knowing that he'd done this. At first, he was terrified, obviously, because he was worried he was going to get caught straight away. But became like a thrill. Really, it was the excitement. Oh my God! I've just did this to someone, and then I'm going home to my wife, going home to my bed, sleeping. And
It's like
then,
a career killer, basically. That's basically what it is.
look at many other serial killers. When you look, no, yous all taking the piss out of me one night because I meant to say BTK and I said BLT. I did. I meant to say BTK and I said BLT. It was out my mouth before I even knew what I'd said. So you look at the BTK killer, and there's a photograph of him and his daughter, whom they must have went fishing or something, and you just think he's looking there. That's a normal family photo.
Yep.
You know, they look so happy, but in another sense, she's standing right beside the killer.
Oh,
It's
jeez.
memorizing. I personally couldn't kill someone and then come home and live my life
It goes that
normally.
most of them have that dual personality. You know, they
Yep.
got an everyday job, an everyday life, and then,
Yep.
you know, when they have the time to get alone, well, they're killing people.
Yep.
No,
As Noreen
That's
says,
I
most
guess-
people. Sorry, honey.
I was just thinking of another serial killer that did that exact thing, and that was Herb Baumeister, who used to own Fox Hollow Farm in Indiana. He was an everyday. He ran a I think it was like a clothing store or something like that with his wife, and he also I think owned a construction company or something. He was in fact he was even featured in an interview from like I think it was around 1996 involving roads and stuff like that. He was there, and if you saw it,
that's why they get away with it for so long.
yeah, it's like you look at if you saw the put it this way, if you saw the interview when it was live, when it was broadcasted, you wouldn't think of him as anybody else. But here he was, but he had a dark side to him. Here he was when his family was away. He would go, just like what John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer did. He would go to gay bars and bring these guys back under the assumption that they were going to go for a swim in the indoor swimming pool and, of course, have some type of sexual relation. But he would go on and kill him when he had the chance.
But unlike Dahmer, you know, Gacy was like the pillar of his community.
Yep.
You know, on the other hand, I mean, when it came down to it, he got caught and they arrested him and they started digging up them bodies from the basements and stuff.
Yeah.
His neighbors and his closest friends were like in shock because they couldn't believe that he did this and committed such heinous crimes over the years.
Yep.
You know?
I'm quite quickly to comment.
Like, I'm glad he didn't target my ass.
Right.
Yeah, remember,
And to make a thing, you know, most killers are psychopaths and stuff and not guilty or empathy. And that's true in most cases. And the biggest one is look at the Iceman.
The Iceman, yep.
Without a shadow of doubt.
That guy that killed for money. He was like a mafia hitman.
Yeah. Linda says, remember the dolls with the pull out here? Noni says most serial killers are sociopaths and have no guilt or empathy. They don't have feelings like normal people.
They don't.
Eric's taking the piss out of me. I'm a BLT killer. Every time I eat them, I kill them. Nicola says must have a psychotic personality. And Nori says either sociopaths or have multiple personality disorders. But there is a lot of interesting, cases out there. So I'm going to go round yous. So tell me, what case interests you the most, and why?
Are you asking all of us?
Yep.
I'll go first. So I actually have two of them in particular. There actually no, three. Let me take that back. Three of them. One of them, like I just mentioned, was Herb Baumeister because he just had this, again, just this very warped sense of reality, not just doing like what some of the other killers did. In fact, I'll even just throw this out. Like when they were investigating and photographing the crime scene, Mr. Baumeister had several mannequins placed in and around his house, including the pool area in various poses. It just seemed really weird, bizarre, and definitely somewhat creepy. You know, it seemed like a setup to lure his victims there. And also, he was one of the few serial killers that was never apprehended for his murders because, as I remember hearing from the story, like I said, I mean, we surmised that Herb Baumeister had gained control of his victims through the use of alcohol and/or drugs, and like I said, brought him into the pool, asked them to participate in autoerotic asphyxia, and then killed these individuals through strangulation, and then buried their bodies out in the backyard of his house. But in the end, when everything was coming to light, Mr. Baumeister fled to Ontario, Canada, where he eventually killed himself with a gunshot wound to the head. So he was basically a coward for doing that. That was one of the biggest cases in the state of Indiana. So there's that case. The second case, which I would like to talk about at some point soon, Lois, we haven't talked about these guys yet, is Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento. And his murders were just extreme. They were horrific. And I've never even told I've told other people about this, but call me crazy if you like. I actually was inspired to even at one point trying to make a dramatization film based on that murder. I mean, on this killer. But after seeing what the last pieces of information I needed, when I came across the actual crime photos, I changed my mind. And then the third and final serial killer, or killers in this case, actually, it's really two, and this is another one we need to talk about, is the Toolbox Killers, also in California, which part of me that really stands out is the torture tape they made, the audio recording.
Yeah. What about you, Michael?
For me, I would say the three that jump out that I find myself often looking up is obviously Jack the Ripper and a lot of the different scenarios that could explain how he got away with it. Another one is H.H. Holmes out of Chicago.
Yep, from my city. Yep, I'm in Chicago, so we have him here.
Yeah, the American Jack the Ripper and his murder hotel, castle, home. How he built it and nobody thought anything of it. It's like, really? You didn't think this seemed
just
a little
looked like
strange?
any other building in Chicago. Just looked like any other building.
Right, but I'm referring to like the rooms, how he had.
Oh yeah.
It's like the person who's installing that never thought this was a bad idea. Something's up here.
What's your third?
That one's always piqued my interest as to, how do you coerce the builders to build something they realize is a death trap and are like, okay, here you go, sign off, we're done. Good to go.
And now today it's nothing but a parking lot for a post office.
I know.
Yeah, it's kind of those ones. Is like, nothing's happening here. Bye. Thanks for helping.
Guests come in, check in, but never check out. That's okay.
Really. Doors that open on one side that lock you once you went inside. It doesn't. I mean, yeah, go ahead and use those type of mechanisms. That won't raise any, that definitely won't raise any suspicion.
Right.
Just use the bathroom, but if you get locked in, it's absolutely fine. That's
You're
just
safe.
normal.
You're safe.
Yeah. Just think, in a sick and twisted way, he had the only self-cleaning bathroom.
That's right.
Hey, Robert. Oh, here's my darling in. Hey, Craig. Guys, please check out Ghostway Paranormal. They're good guys.
Yeah. The third one that I look into a lot was a bit before my time, but it's more the title that gets my attention than what he did, and that's the Zodiac Killer.
The Zodiac Killer, yeah.
That's a good shout.
Because it's like, I'm more interested in why they call him Zodiac than the killings. I'm like, really? Why? That's what drew me, and I was like, why are we calling him this? And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nick, you may know this. Wasn't there someone in Alaska who was like a Zodiac killer?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's been a really long time since I've done my research on it. I'm gonna have to go back and relook, but I think there was something very similar. I don't know if it was like a fan of the Zodiac killer trying to like carry on that legacy. I'm gonna have to look it up again, but it's been. But I think I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, and I think they did a movie about it, and that's what I noticed, and I was like, wait, this. And they even said this is like the Zodiac, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
If I could just throw something out, by the way, since you brought up about H.H. Holmes, and as a resident of Chicago myself, I don't know if I told you, Lois. Joe, I think you might have heard this story before. I think I might have even spoken about it on Fear Fans. Was the grand? You know who Jeff Mudgett is, right? You know who he is, Michael?
Yeah,
the great grandson. We actually took him to one of the Paracons. In fact, he was in the car, but when he did his presentation, because I'm sure you remember, he did that 10-part series on the History Channel about H.H. Holmes. He revealed that, I don't know if it was ever part of the show, but when they finally found H.H. Holmes' unmarked grave, I mean, to him, he was like a kid at a candy store. I mean, he was so excited that they were able to recover the remains of H.H. Holmes. And
I hope Nick.
Did I freeze up?
You did, honey. He did. Hey, Kate.
We could hear you, Nick.
What I was saying was when they were. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, they exhumed his unmarked grave, and when they checked out the remains, all that was left was just like a few bones, but also the skull. But just the top half of the skull was still kind of intact. But there's really one thing and one thing only that still creeps me out to this day, because they took it to a medical examiner, and when they were scanning the skull, the remaining part of H.H. Holmes' skull, what they found was chilling. His brain was still intact after over 130 years after he was executed. 130 years. The brain was still intact. It was as if the skull acted like a time capsule for the brain to still survive somehow. Everything else was gone except the brain.
I wonder if it's because he dealt with so much formaldehyde and lime that it
possible
created a barrier. And I just thought of another. It's not a serial killer deal, but you could argue it could be. But I was watching this show recently, and it's about World War II, Hitler with the bunker. You know, the bones they exhumed. They're saying they're female bones. They were not male bones.
Right. Yeah,
I've heard of that.
Russia tried to tell everyone. Yeah, Russia tried to tell everyone, hey, you know this is a female, right? And everybody was like, nope, it's Hitler. That's what we're telling everyone.
Yeah.
Case closed.
That is just the usual. What about you, Joe? Who would you?
I was fascinated with the whole case surrounding Eileen Wuornos.
Do you know what, Joe? You've just stole my thunder. That was going to be one of mine.
Well, Michael stole my first choice because I've also been fascinated with the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
The puzzles and the way he taunted the police, it fascinated me that case has gone unsolved for as long as it has.
Yeah.
Over 50 years.
It's like their own created language, basically. It's not even like Egyptian or anything like that. It's not even. It's almost made up gobbledygook.
It is. It took some pretty unique people to solve what little they did solve of his puzzles.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, they even went to the public to get assistance to to get help.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kate's asking, totally unrelated, does Michael know his surname is German?
Actually, I do, and it means head. So it's supposed to be a sir title, like head of something, but
Uh,
we're just the head because we didn't. If there ever was an attachment to it, like Schwarzkopf is the black head, I don't know. I don't know if our family ever had a descriptive word with it, but yes, I do know my surname is German and does mean head.
oh. Lynn says, didn't Hitler go to the Arctic? Eric says, yeah, they were saying Hitler never killed himself and lived in a ripe old age. That doesn't surprise me. There says the brain of H. Holmes is interesting, and Lynn says people have also seen him in South America.
So
Yep.
actually, I hate to break it to you, it wasn't the Arctic that he went to, it was the Antarctic.
I was going to say, I think it was
Ah,
Antarctic. Yeah.
It was
yeah,
Antarctica, and then he went to South America, Argentina, and lived out his days there till
yeah.
he
Wait a
was.
minute. No, that wasn't. Actually, wait. No, that wasn't. I don't think that was Hitler, but I know that was another famous
well,
Nazi that did that.
some people, I've heard stories where they said Hitler lived out his last days in the United States.
Yeah. I
Under,
think I think you
under
I
a,
think you would
an
notice.
assumed identity.
That wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me.
I heard
So
that too, but I was like, I don't
Well,
think
when it
the
comes to Hitler, there's a lot of theories surrounding his death.
right.
yeah. Kate says that's so interesting. It'd be fascinating to go try your
I have,
ancestors. I
I
wonder if they could use the brave word transplants. Probably a little far fetched. It's made me laugh. Yeah, sorry, Antarctica is at the bottom. I would have to say for mine, right? Joe stole my thunder with Alien Warnos. I do find that case very, very interesting. And I'll tell you why. Because I've watched the documentary on Alien Warnos many a time, and I don't agree she should have got the death penalty. If anything, yeah, life without parole. But I think the death penalty for her was a bit extreme. Um, and another case that always fascinates me, and Nick knows what's going to come out my mouth, is Ed Gein. I absolutely love Ed Gein.
Well, yeah, we're going up
Yeah,
and around
Joe
that
would agree.
property. Hopefully, in August, we're going up and
Uh-huh.
around that area.
I don't think that Ed Gein, in all fairness, and this is just my opinion, guys, should be classed as a serial killer. I don't think he should be.
Well, no,
I don't think
he's not classified as. See, that's the thing. Some people put people like Ed Gein and Charles
Mhm.
Manson and some of these people in with serial killers. Manson was
Yeah.
a cult leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he never
was a
did any of
cult
the murders directly.
and basically Ed Gein was just a murderer because technically, as far as I know about the whole story, he only murdered the woman in the hardware store.
Yeah. I think
Otherwise, he did nothing but rob graves.
That's
that
correct.
was
Well,
that.
and if I could also add too, and we've talked about it too before, Lowe's, is that the typical number, I guess, to kill, like, of killing people when it comes to an
Yeah.
actual serial killer has to be either 3 or more to be classified as a serial killer. Therefore,
Yeah.
in Ed Gein's case, and I'm sure you know this too, Joe, that woman that supposedly murdered, I think there might have been one other person. If there was one or two, then he's not classified as a serial killer.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
never raised to 3.
And
Right.
do you know what?
Because that I see. Like I said, I didn't know about if there was any more, but that woman from the hardware store is what got him
Yeah,
caught.
Right.
definitely.
And
And
when they went then to his place, then they found all the stuff made from human bones, animal bones, skins, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And the thing about it is, you look at the top horror movies the day that
There's
Ed
the
Gein is
expert right there.
inspired. You've
Hey,
got
the expert's
his
right there. Darren.
yeah,
I forgot he was in
uh,
here. Sorry, Darren.
who's committed.
Hey, Darren.
Hey Lauren, but only used 10 bodies. He dug up 40. Here's the thing with Ed Gein, right? He's inspired many a great film. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Silence of the Lambs,
Psycho.
you know, Psycho. He has inspired thingy. And another one that I've got to say, my third one and my last choice, only because of how brazen. And no, it's not Ted Bundy before anybody thinks so. I would say is Arthur Shawcross. I found Arthur Shawcross very, very brazen. And when he did his whole interview, because I love, right, I will admit, I love sitting watching and serial killers getting interviewed. And I watched Arthur Shawcross's interview, and you could just see he was sitting there. There was no remorse. There was no nothing. The only thing he got really, really touchy about was being accused of killing the two kids, which he did, but he didn't want to talk about. I think what stood out for me about Arthur Shawcross was the part where he told me that basically that there was one night that he drove to pick up prostitutes, because basically that's what Arthur Shawcross did. He picked up prostitutes and then he murdered them. And there was undercover cops everywhere. Obviously, the Arthur Shawcross must have blended in, because what he said in his own words was that he was next to an undercover cop who then started pointing out the other undercover cops because they thought that he was one of them. So he's, it was mind blowing at the fact that that's what even he was very surprised. He's just sitting there with this gentleman who's then now pointing out all the undercover cops, and he even managed to kill that night too, simply because of stupidity of telling, oh yeah, that one over there and that one over there. But I find him very interesting. But I love I've always been fascinated with serial killers and things like that, but that comes from a young age when I used to be with my gran and papa and we used to watch documentaries, and I used to be fascinated with things like that. And as I said, there's one guy that gives me the creeps, and I can't think his name just now. But basically, one of the interviews that he does, and he's basically licking his lips, and it's like dead creepy. And he says, the interviewer asked him, "Would you kill again?" And he's like, "Yeah, that would kill in a heartbeat." In fact, give me 2 minutes to look it up. Because this guy, every time I see him, I'm just like, oh. And it's no Richard Ramirez, because I would remember Richard Ramirez. Serial killer interviews. Da, 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 da.
It's like when
Did I tell that Yorkshire Jack the Ripper was a really good documentary? I've not seen it yet.
So
Better not
I
to-
actually have an interesting question for the panel. Talking about serial killers by definition is so Mary Shelley's book Frankenstein.
Good
Actually, well, there was a scientist who did put cadavers together, created a living person. Didn't last very long, but it was based. We now are discovering on some true legends and stories. So my question is, if because Frankenstein theoretically is three or more people combined, when killed, would that make you a serial killer because you killed multiple people? Because
That's a really good question.
So I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that.
Hey, Sarah Louise. That is actually a really good question. Michael, you've got my brains now clocking.
Yeah, I think you got mine too.
It. I would say probably judging by today's standards.
It wouldn't. Because, here, by definition, I looked it up. A serial killer, or also called a serial murderer, is a person who murders three or more people with the killings taking place over a significant period of time between them.
Okay. Yeah. And truth be told, they say he gathered cadavers. We don't really know if he robbed graves or if he killed somebody to get the parts. So, by definition, if he did commit the murders to get the parts,
well, then he was a serial killer.
Claimed, oh, they were cadavers, then yes, I think he does qualify.
I found the creepy guy that I'm talking about. Here you go. This is a wee short film. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on my phone, but I'll try. What do you think of the death penalty? The state has no right to take your life, but you can murder other people. I don't take anything as a right to take away, except you. Hallucination. These voices from God, these hallucinations. Do you still experience them? Yes, I do.
Well, that's Geraldo that he's talking to. He looks similar to the Iceman.
Yeah, he does.
What was the guy's name?
His name's Joseph Callaghan.
Oh, that's not the Iceman.
He looks like he could be almost related to the Iceman.
But I think that
I would know the Iceman's name if I heard it, but that's not it.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard his name. I don't remember, but yeah.
What I found interesting on that, and maybe it's the way my speakers and everything was working, is a lot of Geraldo I could hear clearly.
Richard Kalinsky.
90% of what Joseph
in fact,
was Jordan.
Nick, do you know what, Nick? I'm going to quickly send this to you because I know you're the man. You're my man when it comes to the IT. Right, so I'm going to send this on to you and see if you can play this because I won't be able. I can't do all this crappy ish.
Well, no, the reason I say 90%.
What are you going to say, Michael?
Yeah, that's fine.
What were you trying to say, though? Sorry.
I was just saying, Lo, the reason I said 90% is there was like 2 key phrases that he said that were totally clear. Everything else kind of was like there was 3 or 4 voices trying to come through at the same time.
Jeez.
So
I've just sent it to.
Yeah, it's interesting when you come across that where it's like specifics.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy. Richard Leonard Kalinsky was the Iceman. That's his name.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Richard Kalinsky was the Iceman.
I just noticed something kind of interesting in a weird sort of twisted way. Top Gun. Remember Iceman, the pilot?
Yep,
His
Top
last
Gun, yeah.
Yes.
it's very similar. I was like, look,
Ah.
the last names are very
That's
similar.
right.
Hey, Hazel Louise. One says nope. Hi, Jeremy.
I thought there was also some kind of Iceman even in the series Dexter too. Since we were talking about that a few minutes ago, I thought there
Yeah.
was an Iceman too that Dexter was trying to track or something. I don't. I've never really seen the show, but my mom used to watch it though. So I don't know. I thought there might have been an
Lauren's
Iceman, but I could be wrong.
And then Eric says was also known as Iceman, was an American criminal and a convicted murderer. He was engaged in criminal activities for most of his adult life. He ran a burglary ring and a pirated pornographic. He committed at least 5 murders between 1980 and 1984.
Okay, yeah, there was
Yes,
an
an Iceman was in Dexter. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that.
So, another curious question for you guys. The ice pick. You know, not the ice pick itself, but the ice, like making it into a dagger or, sharpening it. Do you really feel like that's the perfect murder weapon?
I've seen it in movies, and I gotta be honest. I think in some way it is because I've seen it in like horror films, and I gotta tell you, when they use it in even though it's just movie.
Yeah, Jeremy, I was saying,
you guys hear me?
Too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick.
Yeah, I'm freezing again. Okay, so
I think
what I was trying to say was like, oh, damn it. Okay, yeah. What I was trying to say was, I've seen it in like horror films, and I gotta say, when they use the ice pick, that's a brutal way. It has brutal results to it. I've seen it in those films, and it's very gory. Very gory results.
Especially getting it in the peeper. There's a few films where you see it in films where they get it right in the eye. That's why I'm glad that I've got the old spectacle. Not that that's going to save me, but never mind.
I just think to myself, when it comes to the ice pick, to use another human being, it's got to be a very horrific, very painful way to die.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well,
but Nick, I was meaning the ice itself, not the pick.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant.
You thought so too.
And Jeremy picked up on it too because he mentioned the ice bullets that are theoretical.
Mr. York, you're more on the ball than me and Nick together. I would say so, yeah.
Is ice the perfect use?
I think so, because ice, if you really think about it, it's got some weight against it.
But it's also got no forensic evidence that'll be left behind when it melts.
Exactly.
Exactly. Perfect weapon.
You can't tell what gun it came from. Everything's going to be destroyed.
But here's the interesting thing.
If I can also
bullets be real, because there's heat created to make the projectile, would the ice be able to withstand?
Right.
Yep. Jeremy says the only reason why he made that was because that was one of the weapons featured in one of his novels that he wrote last year.
I suppose if it was like taken down to that temperature, where it's like you can't handle it with your own fingers, like dry ice. If you use dry ice, I think it would withstand the temperature, of the explosion that causes it to fly out of the gun.
Nicola, I've got plenty of volunteers I would love to try it out on, but unfortunately,
It's all good in theory until that
You know-
one time it works, and then you're screwed.
Well, yeah.
You know, if I can also throw out something else, because we're talking like ice bullets and stuff like that, it's also strange too when it comes to serial killers, but even those that are just murderers, to have also tried unusual tactics to like murder one another. Because if you think about it, it's that, and I'm going to throw out a quick example, in fact, but when you think about it, throughout history, man has killed one another in a variety of ways. Now, I don't mean to go like this direction at first, but I'm actually going to come right back to it. I'm actually been making new slideshows, been involving cryptids. One of them is actually involving giant centipedes, like huge ones. But I also throw in, to go back to this, to what we're mainly talking about, like the modern day giant centipedes, like you see in South America. People
please.
often ask, could the giant centipede be used as a deadly weapon against another human? And I got a very good example. I remember hearing that in 2008, a Malaysian man, angry with his neighbor after an intense argument, actually tried to murder him by placing giant centipedes in his bed while he slept.
Yeah, I'm
And
not gonna be able to sleep tonight. Thank you, Nick.
well, the craziest thing is
Do
that
you know
although
what? I was more thinking of the fact of when he mentioned human centipede. Centipedes. I went, please don't talk about human centipede. I creep out every
No, not
time
human-
I hear that movie.
not the movie
Oh my
Human
God.
Centipede. I'm talking about an attempted murder, like using live centipedes. And the craziest thing is that although the attempted murder was unsuccessful, the authorities charged the seriousness of this case as an assault with a dangerous weapon.
So I have one for you, Nick, that's some people may say is conspiracy theory, but the person I interviewed with is very credible and said it was documented and has government documents about it. Is in World War II, the Department of Energy took a gentleman that created a super fish. I forget which one it was, but it was bigger, meatier, and hired him to create hybrids, cryptids. And they took crocs that could stand on two legs and walk. And they were being designed by the Department of Energy to protect a nuclear facility. And they
Really?
the reason this got exposed is because they had to make a couple escape. And so the Department of Energy actually put in the paper, if you see a super croc, do not approach. It is one of our experiments that we are doing to create super soldier type animals to protect.
That sounds
And
like
they were doing
that Piranha movie.
Yeah.
The supercharged piranha that were made by the government to protect some nuclear facility.
Yeah.
Or you've got Sharknado.
Until they got
After
let
that movie.
out in the public lakes. I'll be right back.
So when
No
we're
problem.
sitting here talking about cryptids now, it's in the back of my head and going, are these natural cryptids or are these governmental cryptids that have escaped?
Well,
Right.
here's the thing for you guys, which is on my mind since we're crossing now into the path of conspiracy theories, right? The one conspiracy theory, I must admit, there is quite a good few out there, and everybody knows there's quite a good few out there, is the double path one, right? That's the one that is the most fascinating for me, right? Because it's the hikers' bodies and how some of the hikers' bodies were found. What's your thoughts on that one?
Ooh.
Oh man. Come back to me.
Nicholas, are you not awake tonight?
No, I'm been here. It's just my connection's being a problem.
No, because you said come back to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
because he's thinking. He's got to think about it. To me, I think I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that one, but I am familiar with, because of Josh Gates, the pass where the people disappeared, and I think it was Siberia, was it, or somewhere in the frozen mountains over there. It was this famous pass, and I had never heard of it, and then realized, oh my god, this is true and everything. And these people vanished without a total any trace, left gear behind. And to me, the only thing that makes sense, and it's because I kind of look at the fringe side of the paranormal, if there was a portal there that they stumbled into by mistake, would explain why the people just vanished.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Definitely.
This one was. Sorry, on you go, my love.
I've been studying stuff like that for a long time, and for me, I study all sides of the paranormal, but my favorites are cryptids, and with the cryptids comes these portals, and here in Wisconsin, we have a little wee bit of land that's been dubbed the Skinwalker Ranch of Wisconsin.
Oh my god, I love the Skinwalker Ranch.
This property where I was expecting just to hear stories of the dog man, because we've got our dog man here in Wisconsin. It's called the Beast of Bray Road,
which is just an hour away from me.
Similar to the Michigan dog man and all that, but I was expecting just to hear stories about this dog man, but I got a lot more than we bargained for. And yeah, I tend to, after the experiences I've had out there for the last 3-4 years out on Bray Road, going out there at least once or twice a year. Yeah, I tend to believe in the portals and the portal theory.
Eric says that would be. I've been absolutely zero. Is that the one you're talking about, Lois? No, the one I'm talking about is when the hikers. There's 10 hikers, that go basically missing. Now they're meant to be all experienced hikers.
Yeah, the one up in Russia.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't say the name properly.
Was it within the zone where they? I don't know if any of you seen it recently, but there's places all over the earth that are like the Bermuda Triangle. There are several triangles where things are missing without trace, and some of them do cross land.
That's right.
I think so.
This location that Lois is talking about is within one of those triangles.
I didn't know that, because there was 9 bodies eventually found in the remote mountain. Now, the thing about this was it's really, really horrific. So again, strong viewers' discretion advised. Some of them were semi-clothed. 2 had missing eyes. One's tongue was missing. It's became really well known conspiracy theory. It was supposed to take them 3 weeks trip, and the person who was actually leading the trip had promised to send a message back to basically saying that they were safe, but they were never heard from. But they put it down to it was bad weather. That's maybe why what happened. The 20th of February, that's when their families became really worried because they still hadn't heard from them, and they actually raised the alarm. Now, a search party was sent out for these people, and they got about 500 metres when on the left they'd seen the tent. part of the canvas was poked out, but the rest was actually covered in snow. So talking about an ice pick, so they obviously uncovered the entrance. He found another rescuer's blanket and rucksacks inside. So next to that, then he spotted there was a lot of things that they spotted. But what was ironic about that was because just outside the tent, this person had seen frozen footprints made by 8 or 9 people who were wearing socks. A single boot or were barefooted. The track continues for about 5-10 meters down, and then nothing. Now they were dumbfounded and wondered how on earth could have made the students leave their shelter semi-clothed when it was at least minus 20 degrees outside. Now, obviously, it got dark, so in the morning, but when they had found the people, it was terrible, some of the conditions that they found them in. Now, here's the thing, there's a lot of people that said it could be an avalanche, it could have been this, it could have been that, but one of the things that they are saying is maybe they've stumbled across an experiment which was going on, a secret experiment by the government, and obviously they've been killed as a silencer. Hey, my Irish demons. So it it is a really interesting conspiracy theory, and it's one of my favourites, to be honest.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I was talking about this week with a guest. We were posing the question of like skinwalkers. They're people, tribal men who are trying so hard, are so filled with anger over something that they become a skinwalker. And the legend is once you become, you always are. What we proposed is, could you, in theory, say, after 100 years, let go of the anger? You're still the skinwalker, but be like there to protect and prevent harm.
Oh, yeah. I believe it.
Since you're talking Skinwalker Ranch, the Skinwalkers, right? What's your thoughts on who was that? That was just so random.
That was Joe's dog.
It was just so random. I was like, oh wow, hello.
Talking about the call of the wild.
She'll be going nuts for a while because Mama just got home.
Oh, blessed. Every time I hear Joe's dog, I'm like, oh.
She's a pure Siberian Husky, so it's the closest thing to a wolf.
Oh my God. She's a Husky. Oh, Joe, you need to show me.
That's why she's howling. She's not barking, she's howling.
I love the Siberian Huskies. Sorry, see, when it comes to animals, Lois gets so distracted. So, Skinwalker, right, Ranch. Now, I watched most of the documentary, most of the seasons, right? What's your thoughts, right, guys, on the fact that they put, I think it was 40 or 45,000 gallon water into a well, and it just evaporated, just gone, vanished. What's your opinions on that, guys?
So,
honestly, I didn't even know about that. That's new for me.
I saw it, and there are caverns underneath, and so the water could have sifted and leaked into there, and that's why the water never came out the other end where they expected it, or at all anywhere. And the other thing too is, and I know this is going to sound a little quirky and out there, but they have a metal object under there that's
Oh,
out of the astronaut technology, the shuttle tech, under Skinwalker Ranch several feet. And so how it got there, we don't know.
yeah.
But if something is operating under there that they can't drill through, and they can only get like scratch a little bit of it off, maybe.
Oh,
My thinking is it could also be generating like some heat or something that turned all of the water into steam, and
yeah.
that's why it never was found, because we don't know, like, obviously it's got some shielding around it that's preventing the dirt from collapsing on it and crushing
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So it could be that's two possibilities right there. And another possibility is that water travels the path of least resistance, and therefore where they assumed it went may not have been with the underground where it actually went. It could have found like
Yeah.
an underground creek or old riverbed and followed it and came out somewhere completely, possibly on somebody else's property, and they're sitting there wondering where all this colored water coming from. And
Yeah.
Walker Ranch is over here saying we've lost our water.
Yeah. What about though the fact that some of their staff was complaining of radiation, of having radiation poisoning, and there was actually one that had to leave due to the fact, I think it was something to do with his brain, and his actual head itself
His
had
skull had,
expanded.
got it. It was starting to expand. And the skull has got limited space. The
Yeah.
skin is pretty much wrapped around, so it's not designed to expand or contract. It's designed to stay as is. And he was saying, yeah, the skull was starting to get bigger, and so he had to leave, and it took
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 days for it to subside. And he's been under
Yeah.
medical watch for a little. He was saying he was under medical watch for a while, where he couldn't go to certain areas because they were worried
Yeah.
it would flare it back up.
I do you know, I find it all so fascinating, and we did cover a case a while ago. Nick will remember it, and it was purely by luck. Actually, I was watching a movie. Now I know you don't believe everything that happens in movies, and I like to I like to read about films, and I like to see what gave them. My connection's going to be a pain in the ass because, all right, you're away now. I just had that thing pop up where it tells you with the bars, and I'm like, don't you dare do this to me, not through the show. Um, and I like to see where films get their inspiration. Now, this one that I watched was called Horror in the High Desert. Now, its
Yep.
inspiration came from the case of Kenny Veach. Now, Kenny Veach was a YouTuber that went by the name of Snakebite McGee, and he claimed that he found what was shaped as an M cave, and it was in the Nevada desert. And Kenny Beach, obviously, you know what it's like in social media. If you tell social media, like I'm going to use Skinwalker Ranch's prime example. So I go on YouTube the night and tell everybody, oh my God, I have seen something at Skinwalker Ranch. You're not going to believe this. It like it's like I actually seen it by my eyes. There was aliens. There was a Skinwalker Ranch. Now you know what it's like in social media. Everybody knows what it's like in social media. We don't believe you. Blah blah blah. You're crazy. It still happens. You know, it still happens where people are classed as crazy, and you know, people were gloating this guy basically will go back prove this, and MK, prove what you've seen. So this guy was an experienced, obviously an experienced hiker because he's done it before. He survived on, I think, like water and one chocolate bar or something like that. So anyway, Kenny Beach went back to find this cave and has been missing ever since. Now there is a man who I can't remember the life of me, and I can't remember his YouTube channel. But since Kenny Beach has went missing, he goes out I think every day to try and find Kenny Beach. And he's claimed that he's seen something that Kenny Beach had seen. And it's a really interesting case. You should look it up. And basically, he says that he's been close, and it's basically like infrasound. So it made him feel very, very sick. He says, and he felt so sick and he couldn't stop being sick. But the further away, that he got from it, the better he felt. And he says he's never ever felt something like this before. And still to this day, Kenny Beach has never been found. Bearing in mind the Nevada desert has got a reputation for many people going missing, whether it is for searching for proof of Area 51 or proof of whatever, or people just going missing, generally being obviously crime, murder, etc. So it's a really interesting one, and a guy that I really, really love watching, and I do recommend MD to watch on YouTube, is a gentleman called the Y Files. And he's a really, really interesting guy, and he does a brilliant podcast, and he did a brilliant one in Kenny Beach. It's an interesting case.
Yeah. No, I actually know of a conspiracy theory that's got like 2 conspiracy theories built into it that I think you all would really love. And this one is, it's not in your backyard, but it's very close. And that's the Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
The Titanic.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say the Loch Ness Monster because I'm so skeptical on that one. It's unreal. But yes, Titanic.
So the Titanic was not the Titanic.
Yeah.
When you look at the White Star lines, they had the Britannic, the Olympic, and the Titanic. The Titanic was behind schedule and all of a sudden launches on time. And the Olympic disappears. Nobody talks about it, but the Olympic was gone, never sailed. And they're saying now the reason nobody goes down to the Titanic anymore is the paint is coming off, and it's really the Olympic. It was an insurance fraud almost claim. Now that's one. Number 2 is the majority of the guests on the Titanic, if we're going to call it that, were all set coming back from the UK to vote down the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
And the ship was ordered to go full steam, which is not allowed under maritime law, through the ice fields because it's too dangerous. And the captain did it anyway, followed the law, followed the guy pushing it, and sank. Everybody that was going to vote against it, the majority died on the ship. You think it would end there, but no. There's a third conspiracy twist to it. I
love these mini ones.
So the mini sub that went down to the Titanic,
is that the one recently?
Yeah. So there was a couple on the Titanic. The famous scene really did happen. This lovely couple died in bed on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Their great granddaughter's husband and her son are on the mini sub that was destroyed by the Titanic. So the Titanic claimed 2 lives from that family.
Interesting.
Yes, I found that really, really interesting because I had actually, I had read about, we did the Titanic. I can't remember if it was this show or to the Graven back, Louise, it is to the Graven back. Oh, Friday Frighteners. And we did do a show in Titanic, and funny enough, do you know what I think quite ironic, right? And I'm a very, very firm believer in this now. I never used to be until there's been some things that I've spoke about. Now, when I'm off air, we used to discuss subjects and used to say, right, what we doing next, blah, blah, blah. So somebody had suggested Titanic. Right, that's fine, we'll do the Titanic, that's fine. On TikTok, all that week, all it was Titanic, 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 Titanic. And I thought, that's quite weird because I haven't searched anything. And when I did, obviously, it came up about conspiracies about the Titanic, and that was one of the ones that came up, and obviously about the family, like obviously the bits that were real in the Titanic and what wasn't real. Like for prime example, the people that played the music while the ship was going down, that was actually real. That did actually happen. And it was things like that, obviously, that I love. But I just find it so ironic now that if there's subjects that I'm thinking about or subjects that I'm talking about, they suddenly appear everywhere. It's even when you look at something, I've found myself looking at something on, just say Google, like something to wear. Next thing, as you know, it'll come up on Facebook, and you're thinking, how the God's earth do you know I was looking at dresses, and then suddenly dresses come up, and it's like, it's weird. Hey, Vonnie, don't you worry. Vaughn says hello. She's always bloody like that, Vaughn. Give Jack a cuddle from me. It's a dog. But I really, the Titanic's a really, really interesting one. There's so many conspiracy theories. There really is, and I've always said, obviously, because of YouTube and the way that its algorithm goes, obviously I can't mention the C word.
Yeah.
But the C word now becoming the U conspiracy theory. As well.
You'll like this, Lo. A friend of mine, well, I say friend, I watch his
Thailand.
Comedian, and his way around it is when he goes to talk about that word, he'll go and he'll just start to cough. And it bypasses all the algorithms because he's like, yep. So the deal that happened on this date.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do you know what, Michael? It's such a pain in the ass that you've got to watch the algorithm. You've got to watch the way you talk about things. You can't talk things medical. I think at one point, correct me if I'm not wrong, Nick, Jeremy York get pulled because I was talking about the death penalty. And
that's what it was.
he got done for that, and I just think, holy shit, YouTube. Because it's funny enough, right? My other half, he watches a YouTube channel called Donut Operations, and this is about a gentleman who used to be used to be in the military, and he used to be law enforcement. So he looks at all the law enforcement like videos, and it always like memorized me like if he was by his videos, right? Because if there was shooting sounds, it would make duck sounds. But if he was showing something like, say, a scene from Reservoir Dogs, you could hear the gunshots. So I said to my partner one day, I said, why is that happen? I said that when he's watching this footage, it's like duck sounds, basically. Um, oh, thanks very much, Joe. You take care, honey. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, Joe.
Thanks, love. Thank you. So, like, alright, now StreamYard's decided to kick all my comments. Alright, I've got them up again. So, it's like, it's duck sounds when it's shooting, but if it's coming from a film, then you can hear it. He says it's because of YouTube, because they demolish the fact of bullet sounds, because obviously Donut's talking about what happened. Like, prime example, there was a case in America, I don't know if you guys have probably heard it, I don't know what state it was, but there was a woman phoned up and complained about her boyfriend and he stole a car and blah blah blah. And he obviously got put in handcuffs and he got put in the car. Now she's obviously dead hysterical in that, and suddenly this copper starts firing, just fire. Don't know how the gentleman survived, may I say, but they were shouting it was shots fired. Now he's in the back of the vehicle handcuffed. There's definitely no shots fired. Now this was going round for a while as memes, but it was an acorn that had fell out the tree and made it sound like there had been shots fired. And the copper got a fright and just started firing very, very randomly. And lucky enough, the gentleman in the car survived. Don't know how, but he managed to survive. But it's things like that YouTube does. It's terrible getting, and you're seeing it in Facebook as well. You can't say this and you can't say that. I had an event the other day on my Facebook and I had to change one of my wordings because I was threatened with getting banned for violence because I simply had used the word knife, meaning the knife in my back, but I had to change it to stick because I was threatened with Facebook because of violence. And it's like, holy shit, to what you can't say again, like in any social media.
Yeah,
That's
getting
crazy.
harder and harder.
Yeah, it really is. No doubt.
I mean, you guys will find it yourselves that, like, obviously you've got to mind your P's and Q's and how you say things and
yeah.
I did a show where a guest actually put the word in his comment in the chat room, and I'm pulling up, and I just happened to be like actually reading this one before I post it up because normally I post it up and read, but something said you better read this, and in all caps was the trigger word, and I was like, so in all fairness to you who wrote this, I can't put this up on screen because it's going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to read it this way. And I explain what I'm doing. And I go and read all this stuff. And then I go, virus. And
yeah.
Everybody's like,
I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I took it out for you.
I think me and Nick had that one night where we were talking about something and something came up and there was a comment, and for the life of me, I just couldn't read it because I had to end up apologising to the person because I was like, I can't physically say this on air, as much as I would love to. And even Vaughn, we could get banned for nothing. If you remember in Viv's Live one night, I was banned for 6 days for saying hi. It's terrible. I mean, I'll never forget one day me and my friend were having banter, and for a laugh, I had said that I was going to roundhouse kick him, and next thing you know, up comes Facebook. You have a 3-day ban for violence. What the hell? I'm like, what? Jesus. So I says to my friend, that's me got a 3-day ban for saying that I was going to roundhouse kick you. It was so funny. Then somebody says, why did Lois get a 3-day ban? So he repeated it. He said, well, Lois said that she was going to roundhouse kick me. So the next thing you know, he got a 3-day ban for violence. And it was here's Nick the Prick. We have my good Nick here, and then we've got Nick the Prick in the comments.
Yeah.
It's a way past your bedtime, and you pushed the bed, boy.
So I have a funny Facebook story for you. This happened to me. Was I had gotten on Facebook because some friends said, "Yeah, this is a great way to network and everything. It'll really help you out." So I thought, okay, so I get on Facebook, I get everything set up, and I go, well, now let's start networking. So I go to add friends. I get a 2-week jail sentence for misuse of the adding friends. And I was like, your entire platform is based around networking and making friends, and now I'm being punished because I used your platform to make friends and connections.
Yeah. Do you know what? Facebook is god awful.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times that I have been banned for the most stupidest of things. Like I have, right, you've met Ian for Friday Frighteners. Now me and Ian slag the life out of each other. We call each other left, right and centre. Now, I know that Ian used to come from Scotland, right? But I always kid him on because how long he's been down in England. He sounds like Boise out of Only Fools and Horses. So I always have that joke. So he was on a show one night and I put, hello you big English twat. To which Facebook said that if I didn't remove my comment, I would be done for racism. And I was like, what the actual... I call him worse live on air. And it's just like, really? It's so terrible. Vaughn says, oh my God, yes, that's happened to many. Even for sharing other groups. I've been done many a time for sharing groups. I got a ban because a friend posted something about my birthday and I said, I will kill you doing that with the laughing emojis, and they said it was violence. But I just find the world that we live in nowadays is just went so snowflakey.
Yeah.
It is so unreal. It's like you can't say this because it offends these people, or you can't say that because it offends these people, and it's just like, what happened to the whole freedom of speech?
Yeah, there's just like other times where it's like you just want to ask them, Can't you take a joke?
Well, and what's even
Well,
worse is, like you're saying, the groups that, quote unquote, were being picked on were saying the same thing back, but never got in any trouble. It's like only specific targeted groups would ever get in trouble for doing stuff. They could say and do whatever they wanted. I mean, like, look at Kathy Griffin holding up the head of someone, and they're like, oh no, that's okay. But the
yeah.
fact that we say we're going to kick you or hit you over this is deemed you're going to get banned for violence.
I know. Do you know what really sickened my stomach about Facebook? Now, there's many things that I've reported on Facebook, right? Scammers, everything, right? Now, everybody will remember this very, very clearly. Now, I can't remember for the life of me if it was in America or if it was in the UK. But somebody committed suicide live on air in
Yeah,
Facebook.
that
It
was
was a Facebook live,
yep. I know
and
exactly what you're
for
talking
two,
about. Yeah.
for 2 hours solid, people were reporting it. They were doing everything in their power to try and get Facebook to take it down. And do you know what Facebook said? Facebook said it wasn't against their standards,
Yeah.
Which is
and
just
somebody was
ridiculous.
actually physically taking their own life on air.
So what's
I know.
interesting too about Facebook is, and I don't know if people have figured this out yet, but when Facebook first started, you had contact us, you had numbers you could call to talk to people. They would offer to call you about helping you out, get stuff done and uploaded or any technical stuff. Now, when you go and say contact us for Facebook, nothing. There is no means to contact Facebook.
Yep, yep. It's mental. Nori says it was obviously jokey banter. Vaughn says the bots must log in with so many words that are classed as offences. I'm sure it's bots and not humans. Noreen says, and I forgot about it, and a year later, same thing happened again. Oh, Noreen, I feel for you, my darling. Vaughn says, if you make a complaint to Facebook, they do nothing about it. Exactly. See, for a
Yeah.
while there, Touch Hairy Wood was the best wood. I was getting tagged in a lot of porn stuff, and I was reporting. And Facebook, 9 times out of 10, were coming back to me saying, there's nothing offensive about it. And I'm thinking, but if I had to get my lady bits out on Facebook, I would be banned for about 30 days. If not, my account would be taken off me. I mean, there's a gentleman who, I don't know if you have heard of them in America, but we've got it used to be the Circus of Horrors, and it was by John Hayes. God rest his soul, the man's passed away. Now, there's one in particular act who is not allowed a Facebook, and he's not allowed a Facebook because he attached a Dyson. Strong viewers discretion advised. He attached a Dyson to the end of his manhood and was basically walking round with the Dyson attached to the manhood. And Facebook will not let him create an account simply because of that video. But they're more than willing to let scammers, people who were doing that for a while, you know, but they're more than happy to allow things like that happen. It's mind blowing for me.
Yeah. And they allow cloning of profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah. Oh god, yeah. Right, guys. Tomorrow I am joined by the lovely, and I cannot wait, Shane from the Ravens Paranormal. He's in the Netherlands, so he's coming on tomorrow's show. I'm really looking forward to having him. It's always a pleasure to have you, Michael. We need you back definitely.
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm
I,
happy
I,
to come back anytime.
I wished I could keep you. So obviously we've had Michael tonight. Thank you very much, Michael. Again, for people that don't know Michael, can you tell people about yourself and where they'll find you?
So, I am the host of the podcast show, The Energy That Surrounds Us, which is on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central Time. It's a paranormal based podcast show, and it's on YouTube. If you look up Tetsu or The Energy That Surrounds Us, you'll find it. And we are on Rumble. Rumble is Tetsu. YouTube, it's The Energy That Surrounds Us. And I'm also the host of, on Wednesdays, 3 times a month, doing a show series called Writing Through the Unknown, where I delve into the esoteric side of knowledge and the unknown and really fringe topics and some conspiracy theories. And we talk about them, and I have guests that come on and we share information and try and help people understand that not all things in this world are what they seem. And then on Thursdays, yes, I'm a busy guy. Thursdays, 3 times a month, I am blessed to be one of 3 hosts alongside Kel Ridley and Matt J.B. Atkinson. And we're the 3 hosts of Paranormal Versus, which is a paranormal podcast show where Kel and Matt are based out of the UK in your neck of the woods, a little south of you. They're in England. And I represent the US, so we kind of get guests from both sides of the pond, as the English and Scottish like to say. And so we cover all kinds of topics on Paranormal Versus, like Stargates. We cover conspiracy theories, UFOs, paranormal equipment. So we try to keep an open mind about everything, and we believe in giving our guests space to share their ideas and their perspectives, and we share ours, and we try to be as best we can respectful of our guests. And the one thing that I will say, and I notice Lowe's the same way, and Nick, I think you are too, is I will have my guests' backs when they're on the show, whether I
Yeah.
believe them or not. I will not allow the chat room to start making a mockery of them. I'm like, nope,
Yeah,
this is their
Right.
space to talk.
yeah,
I will, if you persist, I will ban from the show.
yeah.
And
I've certainly done that in the past, and I've actually had one show where, and people may not believe this or not, but where I have actually lost my temper, and I have went no. Basically, I used colourful language that night, and I cut my show because somebody came on and said the most horriblest thing about Nick.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that I remember
uh,
that.
and I totally cut the show, and I said, no, I'm not having this.
It was bad, really bad.
yeah, it kind of sickens me that it's out there, but at the same time, I like that. And no offense to the chat group, but I like that we pick and choose as hosts what on the chat group comes on the screen. So when people are watching,
Yeah.
like say YouTube, if they don't have the chat active, they don't see it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't even acknowledge it, so they don't even realize it's there. But one of the things that I know, I have a friend who's had to deal with this, and I've kind of started getting there, is I won't post everything that's in the chat room because, no offense to the chat room, but they tend to start having their own conversations in there. And I'm like, this was supposed to be for the show, folks. So if you're
I,
sitting here talking
I,
with everybody else about your day, I'm not putting it up. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I tend to do that. What I tend to do is I, with my viewers, they're pretty much like I've always said. Without these guys, I wouldn't have the shows, and without them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right.
And I really do tend to bring them in and everything. But like you say, if they're having a conversation in between, I tend to like keep that's between them, because I don't really want to be, because they could be talking about something that, you know, like private, and I'm going, oh yes, and reading out the comment to the whole of the
Yeah.
to the whole of the universe. So yeah, I do get where you're going there with that.
And I always say thank you to the chat room. And yeah, I agree. Without the fans of the show, we're just people talking, and, we could do that with or without, being on air. But doing the success of the podcast show is because of the fans.
Oh God,
Equally
Yeah.
oh
to the
God,
host.
oh God, and there's what will be bringing back into place, and just to let everybody know, on June the 13th, it's not a Friday, thankfully, because I always say Friday the 13th. There's another conspiracy theory. It's Friday the 13th. As we are doing a autism awareness, and I used to do a lot of the awarenesses. So I'm going to be bringing that back into play. Things like mental health, things like dementia, things like autism. You know, a lot of awarenesses out there. And that's what I love about the shows, is the fact of you, you really do get good people. You really do get your good
Yeah.
people. And do you know, I used to be really, really self-conscious about asking guests to come on. I used to be terrified, like, to ask, because I think they must read that and think, who the hell is she? Where the hell is she came from? Never heard of her. Oh, no. But I've actually grew confidence the more that I've been in the podcasting, the more that I'm actually building my confidence. So now I'm going outside my zone and saying, you know what's the worst that these people can turn around and say? And I'll tell you what, I was quite chuffed in myself doing the other day. I actually personally PM'd Shane Pittman. Now, if you told me about 3-4 years ago you're going to message someone like Shane Pittman, I would have went, had not a chance. Because I've never had that confidence to speak to somebody like that, do you know? And even Dr. Cal Cooper, like, I would never have the confidence. Even yourself, like, I wouldn't have that confidence to come and say, would you like to come on my podcast? But
Aw,
now I'm getting
those
that
special beat in
confidence.
that category.
It's like I look at people's profiles, I'm thinking, I don't think I could ask you. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because of sometimes the confidence. But now I'm just like bold as brass, right? Do you want to come on my podcast? Do you want to come on my podcast? Come on, sort of thing. That's how Nick. I used to be terrified. Nick knows this. I used to be terrified to talk to Nick. Actually, it took me a bit of time to ask him to even come on my podcast, and now, like, he's stuck with me. He's been stuck by my side for, what, 2 years?
Yeah.
Well, truth be told, Nick's name has come across my people I should know list a few times, and I was like, I don't know him. He doesn't know me. I'm not quite so sure. We're not in the same like talk area. And I'm like, we don't have a lot of friends in common. So I'm like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. And then after the show where we were on Friday Frighteners, I was like, okay, it popped up again. All right, he knows who I am, so we'll see. But I'm the same way. There are some people I know.
I'm international. I'm all over the place.
Not only is it international man of mystery, but he's a pin-up in the paranormal. I keep threatening to make a group with all the fans. But yeah, it's amazing when you meet you people, and you do. And I must admit, I'll always say that social media is the biggest curse ever, like in the world that we live in today. But if I flip that round and put that in a positive, I can't really say that because A, I wouldn't be sitting doing my podcasts. B, I would have never met any of you guys. So I really can't turn around and say, you know what, I wish social media was like gone, because I would have never connected. And let's be fair, if it wasn't for the likes of Nick and me watching who Nick goes to, who he deals with, seeing people that come up and people you may know, I would probably be lost. Like, he's my right hand man for everything. So he's like, you can stop it now, I'm getting a big head, But
yeah, I had a lot of friends that I would talk to as guests, or I would be on their shows. And I would mention a topic, and they'd be like, "Oh, you need to talk to Nick Moulet. You need to talk to Nick Moulet." And I'm like, "Who is this Nick Moulet?" And and it's like his name. I would hear your name in a lot of places, and then when I was like, all right. So I thought I'll look it up, and I was like, not sure which Nick, who's who. And then when I was on the show Friday Frighteners, it's like my mind goes click and goes, oh my God, that was Nick Moulet. And I was like, I can't believe I actually was on the show with him. And it was like, I finally met him. And I was like, hey.
I'll quite want to through these comments down. Very interesting, Michael. That's very good. Discolored decks when people are disrespectful. Good for you, Lois. Lois, you've grown a lot doing your podcast. Thanks very much, honey. Hey, Amanda, Spooky Paranormal. Spooky Japan. And Nick is a good egg. It's his laugh that does it. It is his laugh. Do you know everybody says I end up kidnapping them? That may be true. They come on as guests and then somehow they don't leave. And they'll tell you in Friday Frighteners that I locked them in a basement and I kidnapped them. I don't agree with that statement. Wow. It was just simple. Would you like to come on my show? I actually like you. Can you stay, please? And then obviously this is where I am, and as I said, it's not just about my viewers as well. See, without the guys that I've got the backing of, like Nick, like Ian, like Bri, Wayne, Mark, whoever, Joe, I wouldn't have these shows either, because I don't think I would have the balls to actually do a podcast by myself.
And what's funny is, talking about that, Lo, is it was funny is I remember when you messaged me and were like, hey, would you like to come on my podcast show? I have this one or this one. And my response was, yeah, can I be on both? And you're like, You want to be on both? Okay.
I know, oh, he wants to be on both. I'm touched here. I'm like, okay then. If you want to be on both, I am not going to stop you. Carry on. That helps me. I'm like, that's fine. Because usually, I know some people's diaries, they either could go one of two ways. One person could do 8 o'clock my time, or they could do 9 o'clock my time. So it goes one or both ways. So you're the first guest that I've actually had that's went, you know what? I can do both of these. I think I'll just come on both. And I'm like, oh, wow. I've never had that. It's usually either I'll take your Thursday or either I'll take your Friday. It's never usually, oh, wait, actually, I'll take that. Right, guys, I'm going to have to end this conversation because Joe is just about to start his podcast and he'll kill me if I'm 1 minute over. But, Michael, definitely, it's been a pleasure. Definitely, we need to get you back. Definitely make this more often. You never know. I might hint at you. Next like that, I know it's coming.
No,
say no, Michael. Say no.
No, I was not only thinking that, I was just thinking, and just be on the lookout because you might, any other show you go on, you might still be hearing that continuation saying, probably need to talk to Nick about that.
Probably. But everybody.
Nick. I've talked to Nick.
In fact, I've spoke to Nick. Not only have I spoke on the shows, I've also joined him in the basement. Vonnie says, nice to see you guys. Always a madhouse. Wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you. You're very welcome, love. Everybody, I'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll speak soon. See you later, everyone.